greetings, como allez-vous? And je vais très bien. Welcome to We Talk. Of course, we're glad y'all here. Check one, two. We're glad that everybody's here, all right? First of all, we hope that you all have a good week. Let me get my stuff together for a minute. I gotta line things up. Y'all know how that go. But we're gonna have a great time tonight. We got a very good discussion tonight. So, but before I get into the discussion, I'm going to bring my co-hosts on early because we're going to try to get out here a little early. But there's one question I'm going to ask once I get them on. And I want y'all's feedback, and I'm going to give you the answer. But I want you to tell me what you think, okay? So without further ado, let me bring my guest on, my co-host. I hope we don't have any issues tonight with folks logging in, because we've been having a consistent problem with that. And if anybody know how to resolve it, let me know. Hey, Miss O'Neill.
Hey.
Hey, you got right in there this time, huh?
Yeah. I was sitting here waiting. I was listening to you play.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. That's supposed to get you right.
I was listening. You was really playing one of my songs. I was sitting here, like right here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's always good. That's always a good thing.
We're
Keith,
good.
what's happening? Is Keith on? Yeah.
I just saw him like.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on? You okay?
Everything good. Everybody came right on, seemed like now.
Yeah. Maybe they see that we ain't gonna stop.
Nah, they chasing the other. They chasing the other cats now from the signal chat. You know what I mean? They not worried about us no more.
Hey, they want to bring up the monotony a little bit. They got bored trying to chase us down.
That's up a signal chat, man. Come on, man. That's
Not the signal chat. Hey, that's crazy though, isn't it?
That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't even, man.
Hey, Miss O'Neill, mute out, because you are cutting up back there.
I don't think it's me.
If you mute out, we'll be able to tell. Yes, it's you.
Well, go ahead, Mr. G. Do your thing. I know you said you we get out of here early. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, listen, before we get into our discussion, our discussion is going to be on, let me see, we're going to be talking about why do people project who we should be or become, and if that is so, what should we do when people project on us? I know a lot of people don't even know what we're talking about, but we're going to define it, and we're going to give some examples of what it is so that everybody knows when it's happening and how to combat it and deal with it. But before we do that, I want to ask this one question. And Keith and DeJoy, I want y'all to chime in. I looked at, I think this is an interesting point. But before I ask my question, I'm going to let everybody know, and you all probably know this. I'm a God-fearing man. Keith is a God-fearing man, and DeJoy is a God-fearing woman. So we're very spiritual, and we have said that many times on our lives. Okay, but here's the question, and it kind of had me kind of perplexed. I saw it on The View earlier last week. We're taught to believe in God with all our hearts and to repent. It says we got to repent our sins because we are born of a sinful nature. And now we know Satan is the one that's responsible for all the evil in the world. We know that. And we are, as humans, we know that we're imperfect and are sinful because of the first sin of Adam and Eve. Now here's the question. Now, I'm going to build it up a little bit more. And, all right, listen. And we know that Satan was removed from heaven. At least that's what we're taught, and has influence over all the earth. The story of Job shows us when Satan was told he was told he could do anything he wanted to him except kill. Everybody knows that story. And he did almost everything imaginable to him. Took his family, took all his riches, inflicted him with disease and all of those different things. Right? My question is this, though, and it's not a philosophical question. It's just one that is a common question I think most people have if they ever question and looked at their spirituality. My question is this: if that is the case, why didn't God just destroy Satan from the beginning? I mean, it would have made it a lot easier for us, and the world would be a better place now if that had happened. So my question would be, why didn't he destroy him from the beginning when he first sinned, when he first rebelled against God? Because we know he could have eliminated him. He had the power. So, Georgia, I'm going to let you go first. Ladies first. You got the mute back in.
You could let Keith go first on that one.
All right, Keith, you go ahead and take if you want. I mean, it's just an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're right or wrong. It's just something that I kick around for a couple of minutes and see what people's ideas and thoughts are.
We all were taught that God is a jealous God, the supreme architect, right? But at the end of the day, we have to choose right or we have to choose wrong. So in the instance of the examples of Job and any other person we could think of in the Bible stories and went through a lot, they had two choices. And the thing was, Satan, remember, he said he could make Job curse God. And that was the whole thing. And everything that he put Job through.
Mute out again, Mr. O'Neill, till it's time for you to talk.
Yeah, and
go ahead,
everything that he put him through, Job never cursed God, right? Because he chose to honor what it was, and he realized obviously what it is, and that's the mistake that people make. There's a saying that God will never give you more than you can handle, but God's not giving you the challenge. The challenges and the things are automatic because that's the way the universe is created. Those challenges and those different negative things is part of that spirit realm, and some of it's cause and effect. As soon as you say you're going to choose to do these different things, there's going to be obstacles that are going to be in the way because you're not looking at those obstacles because you never were going down that path to begin with. That's why you don't see it in the beginning. But
right.
At the end of the day, you have a choice to make because there's people who choose negative and that's their choice. But there's people who choose positive. So why I believe all that is in existence is we have to choose, because once you choose, you still got to fight to get to the truth. Just because you choose right doesn't mean that you're going to know what you need to know. You still got to go through a journey of right. A lot of people, they don't choose. They're straddling the fence. So in one breath, they want to chase right, but they're not putting any effort into what exactly does that mean. And it's not all put in front of you. You got to find it. And that's the way that I believe the Supreme Architect wants it, because the people who find it are the people who want it to find it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. All right, Nick, what are your thoughts?
My take on that is loyalty and trust is everything. There is no ultimatum. You know what I'm saying? There should have been no reason for God to say, well, you know what, if you do this, if this and if that, God doesn't give those ultimatums. Either you believe or you don't. Therefore, you receive the reward for loyalty, for for sticking in there for the fight. Anything that's worth the fight, anything that is good, for the most part, and as we know, any reward is given through a fight, through suffrage, at times. Nothing is going to be given to you that's easy, because we all know easy money goes easy, easy fame goes easy, but that what you've earned, it stays there. and it's continuously rewarding, you know. So in that sense, I believe that God, you know, and you know, yeah, he's a jealous God, and he's a righteous God. He believes in, you know, things that are right, things that are fair, and things that are just. So if he's gonna give you something, you know, you have to trust that. You have to be that. You have to be fair. You have to be just. You have to be upright in your choices. You know, so I believe that in that sense, that's where you know, where God was coming from. You know what I mean? And then all of those things that he had taken from Job, you know, family, riches, and things like that. Such that was super. That was just something that was material. We can't put all our love and, you know, all our, oh, I love my man over everything. I love my wife over everything, because you can never put anything over God, and that's Satan's main goal, is for you to put everything over God, right? And we're not going to do that. And so if you're that person such as Job, you know, Job understood the assignment.
Now that's
um,
very
so I that's my take on that.
that's very interesting. Both perspectives, but yeah, that is true. It's more like uh, just make the choice. I mean, either you have the faith or you don't. So my thoughts on it is this. First of all, we know that we have free will, and God put us here so that we can choose. So the battle between Satan and God is just the manipulation of our souls to turn us away from God. We've already been born with the Spirit of God in us. So while Satan has the ability to influence us, we already have what we have to do. And this is a key point. What we have to do is to suppress our goodness, our God-like qualities. That's how that choice is made. Now, um, so we must have faith, and we must choose good over evil. Satan in himself, he does not have the power to make you do anything. So when people ask the question, okay, why did he kill him? Why did he just destroy him? Then how would you prove your loyalty to God? There would be no opposition. So the opposition is your free will when you choose God over Satan. Just like anything else, there's always opposing forces. You have to make a choice whether or not it's good or evil. You're going to have to make a choice whether or not you want vanilla or chocolate. There are always choices. So my take on it, the reason that he did not kill him is because we would not have the ability to choose. And I think that's the takeaway from it all. We got to understand that if you're in a boat and you're on the river, the river ain't going to carry you unless you paddle. If you paddle, the river will take you where you're paddling. Same thing. You got the choice. If you choose good over evil, then you being in that boat on that river, all the ultimate will always be in your favor, because that's what God expects us to do. So, y'all got any closing remarks on that? I just wanted to get that out because I saw it on The View, and I said, I never even thought about that. Because sometimes when you are spiritually in tune, certain things don't even cross your mind. You don't even think about it. You know what I mean? So I had never even thought about that.
I just feel like, you know, like they say, one cannot exist without the other. Therefore, you can't truly appreciate what is good and what is God, unless you have something that is different and not of that, you know, that same stature. So, you know, I just believe that in order for us to appreciate what he puts here, you know, we have to know the other side of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Um, sort of like what is it, that yin and yang, there's a dark side to everything, just like there's a light side to everything. Darkness can't exist without light, you know what I mean?
Right.
So and light can't exist without the darkness, so we have to look at things from that perspective, and understand that that's life all the time.
Yeah, and not only that, we have to understand that the choices is what makes us human. The choices that we have is what makes us human. We don't act instinctively like animals. Animals don't have a choice, although we are part of that group. We're all mammals, but we have the superior position with the grand architect of the universe because he gave us the choice where we could choose. So that's, and it's simple, just like the example I gave you. If you're in a boat and you don't paddle, you ain't going anywhere. But the river is there to carry you if you paddle. So when you make your choices, that's the same as choosing between evil and good, Satan and God. So that's now, we might have a clergy person that comes on a little later on. Hey, Sandra, how are you? That comes on, and they may give some more enlightening to it. But that's my perspective. But anyway, let's get on to our topic so we can kind of get out of here. All right, listen. Why do people project on other people? And what projection is, we need to understand that. So we need to know what projection is. First of all, most people probably don't even understand what that is, but it happens to them daily, day in and day out, and throughout their entire lives. So we have to know what is meant by projection. Projection is a defense mechanism where individuals unconsciously, most times they don't even know it, they unconsciously attribute their own acceptable thoughts, feelings, and behavior onto another person. So, in essence, projection is simply a coping mechanism. How people cope with their insecurities and how they get along in life. That's what projection is. For them, it's generally considered negative as it can damage relationships, it can lead to misunderstanding, and it can hinder personal growth. How many times has somebody said something to you and you believed it? I'm talking to the people on the line. How many times has somebody said, well, you're not good enough to play football? Are you not good enough to get into that school? Are you not good enough to play with that band? How many times, and those are just examples that I can think of. There are many, many more. How many times have people said things to you and you question your own ability and your own self?
Well, you gonna get those people that say never, but you're gonna get those people that say never. Oh, I never would do that.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the back of your mind, and you start doing it, and it don't turn out like if it don't turn out like they want to, they'll start. Well, maybe I need to do this. Well, maybe I need to do that. Anytime you put a maybe, or have any just a thought, even if you don't say it to yourself, that's that they planted that seed already.
And
Um, so yeah.
it's an unfair expectation because nobody's perfect. And the reason I say that is because it puts people in a position where they are so afraid of failure that they will ultimately make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody, what happens when you tried and you fail? What are those people gonna say? Well, I told you so. I knew it wouldn't work. Right? We've all had those people, man, and I'm telling you, it's once you get older and wiser and start understanding life, then you don't allow certain people and certain energies in your space. until you protect that energy and you protect your space, you're going to always have people who have their own inequalities and their own issues that they're going to project onto you. And again, remember what I said, that projection, that is a coping mechanism. That's how they cope with their insecurities. So, but the hurting and the most important point that I want to make, it also prevents other people from addressing their own issues because they're forced to deal with the projections. So in other words, here's an example. If I may have a problem with something else, right? And that may be the only problem I have. But I have a friend who is insecure and has low self-esteem and all of these things. So when we hang out together, then those problems or that attitude is going to be forced upon me. So when that happens, I'm not even dealing with my issues anymore. Because first of all, if we knew how to deal with it, then we wouldn't have a problem with projection because we wouldn't allow it. So I'm talking to the people that don't know how to deal with it because it happens daily. It happens where people tell you you're no good, you never amount to anything, you can't do this and you can't do that. I mean, am I just tripping or is that a reality in most people's lives?
I think, I think it is a reality, in most people's lives because people, I don't think people, when we say things sometimes as humans, we have to believe it. And I think people say things and then they get, because you can get nervous with the progress. You can get nervous with what you got going on, and then you start questioning that too. So I think that we have to just get to a point where we stop, questioning things. And if it's happening good, it's happening. If you're having some troubles, you need to revamp, and just because you revamp, that doesn't mean you're questioning it then. You're just making an adjustment till you can get to your goal. While the question comes in when you just stop moving, period. I had talked to my son earlier about something and, he was like, oh, well, this was happening and that was happening and I just couldn't get it together. But now I'm ready to get back into whatever, what he's doing, back
Right.
into his music and stuff. So I said, well, why did you ever question yourself? He said, but I wasn't questioning if I could do it. I was just saying I had stuff in the way. I said, yeah, but when you let it get in the way, that's the question.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
When you let things get in the way or you let things, impair the direction or the plan that you've put out for yourself, that's still a question. You know how now they say, how do you say this without saying this? Well, that's it. How do you ask a question and question yourself and, what is it called? Mess up your energy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think people fail to realize there's a lot of ways that we do that without even doing that, specifically, So I mean, that's just the way I look at stuff like that now.
Well, see, you kind of proved my point, and that what I'm saying is you don't have time to deal with your own issues when people project onto you. Now, I don't know the entire situation, but what I'm saying with your son during that particular time, whoever else he was dealing with, they had somehow influence, which it might be a better word for projection, um, or it kind of augments that word, where they may have taken his mind somewhere else where he couldn't even concentrate and devote the necessary time to what it is he wants to do. And I'm not saying everybody has problems. It doesn't necessarily mean that they take your mind off of dealing with your own problems. What I'm saying is it takes your energy that you could devote to constructively advancing yourself in life, and now you have to address those issues that you can't do that. Even if you don't believe it, it's still in your mind. When
But see,
somebody
my
says,
thing is though, but that's just what I'm saying. If you, Keith, and I are working towards something,
right,
right? And we all not in, we all in there. Oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to. So we speaking for the journey. We speaking for the goal we're working to. But if you got that one person that's not helping you speak to the goal or speak into existence what you're doing or what you all are doing together, then that's what you have to look out for, you know.
right,
And those are the people that you got to look for when you talk about the if, the ands, and the buts. Or if you're dealing with somebody that doesn't have your, I don't know if interest is the better word, but that's why you tend to look for people that have things in common, not for people that adjust to what you're doing, all the time, but just you already have it in common already. So you're not trying to pull them along. Sometimes it's not good to try to pull people along, to try to convince people. Like it, just as we're talking about, with the before point you made when we were talking about, Job and this and that and the third. We have to realize that in our daily life, not just through the parables, and not just through others' lessons, but through the things that with the little breadcrumbs that we get as well.
oh yeah. But the main thing is to remember is this, that those projections don't have anything to do with us. And that's where most people make their mistakes. They accept it as it is presented. If you reject it and understand that it has nothing to do with you, then projections don't influence anything in your life at all. People's projections is a psychological defense mechanism. They don't have to do anything, but psychologically, they get inside your head. If I keep trying and I'm doing something, that's why it's very important that you surround yourself with people who are like-minded and have the same heart conditions and really want you to do well. Because all it takes is one thing to either push you over the finish line or stop you from even crossing the finish line. When you get people, and I failed twice, but I'm really passionate about what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm around someone that says, man, you might as well give up because you already failed twice. You understand? You've already failed twice. How many times are you going to fail? Are you going to continue? Now, that little bit of energy can psychologically affect my momentum. And like you said, Ms. O'Neill, I will start second guessing myself. And when you start second guessing yourself, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to believe it and you're going to make it your reality. All right? That's just the way it goes. That's the very reason I want to talk about it, because a lot of people don't even know that it exists. When people say things to you, you got to understand that they're either trying to help you or they're trying to hurt you. And words are very, very powerful. I tell people this all the time. Your words are very, very powerful. So you have to be very careful what you say, who you say it to, and what your heart condition is. I keep going back to Ramsey when he ordered the firstborn of all to be killed, and he ended up killing his own son. So your words are very important. We have to understand the importance of it and how powerful they are. Now, we already know that it's a psychological defense mechanism. And the reason it is, it keeps them from, they avoid confrontations and an uncomfortable feelings, a thought, or behavior. They don't have to address it. Like if you go tell somebody, man, why are you so negative all the time? If they've been allowed to do that and it goes unchecked, they don't ever have to worry about it. They don't ever have to address. Why are you so negative, man? I don't even want you around me. But if you just listen to them and let them project and give those attributes to you, because that's what they're doing, they're passing it on to you, then it never gets changed and it goes unchecked. So here are the reasons why they do that. They project to avoid self-awareness. People may project to shield themselves from acknowledging difficult emotions that they have or traits within themselves. We say it again. They may project to shield themselves from acknowledging difficult emotions that they have, not you. Those are the traits that are within themselves. Now, also, they do it to preserve what little self-esteem they have left. Attributing negative qualities to others can help maintain a positive self-image. All right, let's examine that. If I'm always negative, that's going to make me feel a lot better than being positive if my self-esteem is low. Let me try to clarify it a little bit. If you have someone who's always attributing negative qualities, right? If I'm talking to you, let's take a relationship. If you have someone who's always speaking down on you and making you feel less than, didn't that make that person feel more positive about themselves? Because they have someone that's beneath them. Anytime when I can place someone in myself, first of all, in a position of superiority, then that means someone has to be subordinate to me. And how does that make me feel? It makes me feel that I have a positive outcome in that situation and with that individual. If I'm equal to you, then my positivity might change if I have low self-esteem. Y'all want to add anything to that before I continue?
No, you good.
All right. Now, they also use it to cope with anxiety. Projection can reduce internal conflict and anxiety by externalizing uncomfortable feelings. Let's say I'm fat, right? If I'm fat and I'm uncomfortable about my weight, right? If I talk to someone else and I belittle them and I can make them feel some kind of way, then I don't have to face that reality. And so I'm externalizing what's uncomfortable to me onto someone else. That's what projection is all about. Projection is never used to make you feel better. It's always associated with a negative attribute and a way of making someone else feel less than what they are. Now, if you allow people to change the way that you feel about yourself, then you have some internal conflicts. Projections by someone else, as we've already discussed and given the definition, it has nothing to do with you. It's a coping mechanism used by those who lack self-confidence, self-esteem, and do not want to deal with their emotional shortcomings. So it helps me to get through life if I attribute those things to you. You understand? So when someone tells me that I can't play or I'm not good enough to be on the team, if I listen to that, that's external. That has nothing to do with me because it becomes from someone else. Hey, what's going on, brother? It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with that individual who has those shortcomings. So for everybody on the line, I want them to understand that when people respond negatively to you, or they belittle you, or they make you the bully at the playground, that person has the problem. It's not you. So even if I feel some kind of way, as long as it's not externalized, I can deal with it. If I externalize it and project it onto someone else, that means I never deal with my issues. And that's what people that project do. They avoid dealing with their own issues. Now, examples of projection. Now, there are many of them, but I'm just going to hit on the more popular ones that I can think of. A person who is secretly jealous might accuse their partners. Now, this is in a relationship. So even though it can happen outside of a relationship, a person who is secretly jealous might accuse their partner of being unfaithful. So if they are accused of being unfaithful, that means, now I'm not saying I'm not saying that those who give all the indications that they're doing something wrong. I'm saying a person who has done nothing and have not given any indications that they're doing anything, if that spouse or that special someone projects that they're cheating, that is projection. It doesn't mean that they're cheating either. It means that they have insecurities for whatever reason. Now, another way, someone who is feeling insecure might criticize others and point out their flaws. That's something. Criticizing other people and pointing out their flaws. That's projection. So I'm saying these things so you'll know when people start talking to you and you start hearing these types of projections, then you know, don't take that like something's wrong with you. Understand that it is projection and they have a problem themselves. Now, if I'm pointing out your flaws, then that means I have to acknowledge my own if I'm a good person. Because in doing so, then I'm also seeking help and I'm also trying to help you. If I point out your flaws and don't acknowledge my own, then I'm trying to hide and I'm trying not to acknowledge that I have issues. I may be, and when we talk about people who are overweight, I may be overweight too. But if you're more overweight than me and I point out your flaws, then I'm avoiding dealing with mine. All right.
I was gonna say, I think it's crazy that you brought that up because I had that conversation with somebody this morning, actually, right?
Wow.
You know, because the problem was, I'm like, you know, if you always point out that everybody else is rude, nasty, this, that, and the third, do you think about your tone with people? Do you think about how you bring, you know, just when like if somebody come in and say something like to me, hey, you know what, I need help picking this up versus, oh, well, I'm not picking that up today. My leg hurt. You know, that's a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I said, people, you know, and I said, when you come at somebody in a negative way or just with that, I don't know, that entitlement or that condescending, I don't know what you would
That's
call
what it
it
is.
specifically,
A combination
but
of
yeah. Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't know what some other people, you know, would call it exactly, but to me, you know, that's what it is. That makes me not even want to be in your presence, not even want to be around you, you know, and then you want to know why you can't get help or why, you know, people aren't staying in your workplace or something like that. You know what? Well, sometimes, you know, hey, it's about your delivery. It's about, you know, what you project. That's what we're talking about, actually.
right. Right.
What you're projecting, you know, from you to somebody else, and all of that, all of that energy and that you put out into the universe, because the universe is nothing but energy. You know, all of that is what you get back. You put negative out, you're gonna get negative back. You know,
That's exactly
you put
right.
yeah, you put positive out there, you're gonna get positive back, you know, and it may not be the positive in the way that you were looking for it at the time, but something in your life is gonna change and be positive or something, you know. So I mean, I think people, you know, really miss that. They don't really look at the fact of what they're projecting or what they're giving out to other people. You know, and I find that particularly difficult for people to understand, especially if you're in a situation and you may be older or younger than a person and you giving them something, or you saying, hey, well, you know what, this is what it should be. But because they don't feel like you've had experiences, or you are where they are in age, or whatever, then, you know, they find it hard to accept those things and hard to say, well, okay, maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe, you know, I need to fix this. It's crazy to me, because I had that conversation this morning.
Hey, we talked about that last week. Remember, someone who is, it goes into projection as well. They would rather not even speak to you than admit that they're wrong. To me, that's the craziest thing in this world. But you have people, I forgot what we talked about last week, but I do remember that little tidbit that those people, those
Toxic
narcissistic people,
people, toxic
toxic,
people, toxic
and
things. Yeah,
toxic.
toxicity.
That's exactly right. They would rather not even speak to you than say that they were wrong. Now, that individual is deranged and something is seriously wrong with them. But there are many who live their lives that way. So now, how do you respond to someone who is projecting onto you? It's very simple. And this is the key to a lot of things that will make people's lives a whole lot smoother and easier if they can learn to subdue their passion, as we speak masonically, and just calm down. When responding to someone who is projecting, the first thing to do is to remain calm and avoid being defensive. Check this out. If you know that this individual has a problem, and you know by our definition that projection has nothing to do with you, why would you become defensive? Why would your feelings be hurt? If you understand those two variables, they have an issue, and their projections has nothing to do with you. If you understand that, it's real easy to remain calm and not become defensive, right? Instead of,
Sometimes I just don't respond. Sometimes, you know what? As I've gotten older, I just don't even see the reason to respond. Not that you're ignoring what they're saying, but sometimes I'd be like, I
no,
might
don't
need that
ignore
last breath
it.
to,
Don't ignore it.
yeah, I don't call it ignoring you. I just don't feel like, you know, I need to waste my breath on sometimes ignorance, you know. And I will look at you to let you know I heard you, but I just will look at you and just shake my head and walk on.
And, well, my thing is that I'm going to ignore you because if I give you, listen, most people who have shortcomings, they are looking for your attention. And the best way to not give somebody your attention is to not pay any attention. So if they're talking and I know that it has nothing to do with me, I'm going to, as you would say, I'm going to exit left. I'm going to ignore it. I'm not even going to waste one iota of energy on it. As I've said many times, the only time that you'll get a reaction if you're threatening or you put your hands on. That's a little different. We deal with that in a different kind of situation. But talking, and I understand the things I understand, that when you project on me or when you're calling names and all of these different things, it doesn't faze me. You remember when we came up, what did they used to say? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, right? As you get older, all those little childhood, those little childhood things that you learn, they are truth, and they help you navigate through life if you would just apply them. We apply them when we get older, all right? So we know to remain calm. Now, instead of acknowledging, we can easily, while gently, we have to set our boundaries, first of all. And you have to keep reminding yourself that their behavior is more likely a reflection of their own issues and not yours. You can acknowledge their feelings. You don't have to acknowledge what they're saying. There's a big difference. If I'm acknowledging your feelings, then I've got some compassion for you because I know you got a problem. If I care about you, if I say to you, now, that's not true. So what, is there something going on with you? Now, what's going to happen? I always remember, when somebody's wrong, you're going to meet aggression. Most people don't know how to handle their emotions. So you're going to meet some type of aggression. So just be prepared for it. Again, I always remember, right is going to always win out the right. Right is going to always win in all situations. It might not be right at the moment, but right will always win. So you don't allow people to get into your space. You don't allow people to project onto you. You don't allow people to tell you things that are not true about yourself. Who knows you better than you? So I don't care what you've observed. I don't care what you think. It has nothing to do with me internally and how I feel about myself. As Deion Sanders said, what about me makes me think that your opinion of me is more important than the opinion I have of myself? That's just common sense. I'm not going to allow anybody else who's got nothing to do with me, and even if they do, which 9 times out of 10 they don't, I'm not going to allow them to project or tell me something about myself because I already know better. It's projections, okay? Now, setting your boundaries. I'm not going to sit here and listen all day long till you have your meltdown, for you to get off whatever you want to get off your chest. That's not my role. That interrupts my peace. So you have to set your boundaries and make sure that, okay, all right, enough is enough. All right, I've given you the opportunity to address or say what you needed to say. And now that's enough. So now I've got to establish my boundaries and do what? Exit left. I'm out of here. You know. here are a couple examples of projections. When you accuse your partner of being unfaithful, when you are the one who has been considering cheating, that's projection. To accuse your partner of being unfaithful when you are the one who has been considering, not cheating, but considering cheating. Blaming a co-worker for your mistakes or poor performance. Wow. How many have experienced that? I know you got some stories, Miss O'Neill,
Well,
based on some of your
well,
stories.
well, y'all know we went through this here audit, you know,
Lord.
and in the meeting today, Jesus, you, you know, our person, you know, over us, she said she was wearing black today because she was not pleased with the audits, right?
What?
And
They gonna wear
that was
black?
that's
They
how, that's why she
protest?
had on black. That's why she had on black. But I'm saying that to say this, you know, like that people blame, you know, people blame you for things that they've implemented, things that they know are not right, you know, and that's happening because maybe you don't have enough staff, because you don't have, you know, the proper equipment and things like that. Well, who does that come from? That come from the upper people, right? You know, or because things aren't done properly. Well, if you continuously changing things, how do you expect people to be acclimated into what you want to see, the results you want, you know?
True.
You know, and then when you get ready for these audits and things like that, so now you want to have all this equipment bought in, you want to have all these hundreds of people bought in. Guess what? Where was the people when you was actually in these situations that should have counted, that led up to what we're doing right now?
Right?
You
Right?
know, so you know, I find that many people in power, you know, are like that. They'll say, well, you know, we had this bought out to the audit school, we had this, you know, to the schools that were going to be audited. What about all the time before that?
Amen.
You know,
Amen.
you know, so you know, you have to think about, you know, your whole life is an audit to death. You get what I'm saying? So when you're going through the audit, you have to think about everything that you're doing to build up to the final countdown, to the final decisions, you know, so to the findings. That's what the words they use in audits, right? So when you get to these findings and you got the one or two schools that's perfect, or the one or two schools, you know, that didn't have any findings, maybe their leadership was a little different, or maybe, you know, they had access to other resources, or maybe they just had a better way of reaching people, because everybody that's ahead and that's ahead in the organization or even in your life that you place in there are not meant to be the head people in your life. They are not meant
Amen.
to be, you know, they are not meant to be the boss or the supervisor or the regional or the help or whatever,
Amen.
you know. And so we put people in our lives and allow their projections to determine who we are, based on just the fact that A, we may not even know what they're not capable of and how much we are capable of, and two, because of the title that they may have. You understand what I'm saying? Just because I
I
got a title,
understand.
that don't mean that, you know, that don't mean anything. You know, there are people, I've met people, just for instance, you know, we do things for the homeless, and for the less fortunate. I don't say homeless because, you know, home is where the heart is. But, you know, I sat and the picture came up on my memories the other day. I was sitting on the curb when we were in Hurt Park, and I was talking to this lady, right? And she was saying, you know, I'm not homeless. That's just so I'm not homeless, you know, because I want to be. I'm just homeless because I couldn't agree with the people in my family and they just didn't like me for who I was. So I choose to be a nomad. I can go back to ABC at any time. So know when you're doing these audits and you're going through things in your life, maybe you're somewhere because you want to be, not because you have to be. You know, so when
That's a
you
good point.
people to project things on you, you don't have to allow that. Sometimes you allow it because you want to be in that situation. You're questioning yourself or whatever it may be. So anyway, I'm gonna get off the soapbox, but I just had to say that.
Oh
Jesus,
yeah.
fix it, Jesus.
Well, you made a lot of good points, and I thank you for that. Also, like, have you experienced this? I've seen this before. Um, and I'm saying it for the benefit of the people on our live. And I want to thank everybody for last week. We had tremendous turnout. We had a great time. But listen, reacting to someone else's criticism as if they are attacking you, when you are actually projecting your own insecurity. So, in essence, you're saying something about yourself or someone else, and you've got third party B or C who is upset and gets to screaming at you when you aren't even talking about them. You can criticize yourself, and some people, because of their insecurities, will act as though it is a personal attack on them. Have you witnessed anything like that? If you
Oh
haven't,
yeah. Oh yeah.
hey,
We're
you get
you're talking about another situation
yeah.
that's not related to them. You know what I'm saying? You talking about a totally neutral situation, and this happened or the person did this, and I look at it like, hey, and the person, yeah, it's man, that is the first telltale sign of total insecurity. And
Oh yeah.
the other thing is that the people, some of them believe like you really are like Superman, like you got X-ray vision, like you really were a fly on their wall. Like, nah, I wasn't talking about you. No, yes, you were. How I know
Oh yeah,
about
yeah.
how I know about that? Like, they're like, how do you know? Like, nah, man, like, cut it out. Yeah, cut
That
it
is
out.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
That is, but you're right. You can tell them all day long. No, I wasn't talking about you, home. Yes, you were. You were talking about me. Yeah, okay. Well, if the shoe fit, I'm like, okay, if the shoe fit, then wear it. Then we can go and do whatever we need to do. But you don't even have that person in your mind. You can have a total situation that you want to discuss or you want to get off your chest, and someone is going to feel that they have been attacked by something you're saying. You clarify and say, no, I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't talking about you. The first thing they're going to combat that, just like you said, and say, yes, you were. Now, why would they think that? That's my question. If I know I'm not talking about you, why would you think I'm talking about you?
Cause they were talking about you. I'm
Or
just
else,
trying to tell you, they were talking about you.
or else they feel that
Yeah.
is one of their insecurities.
Well,
That's
I'm
what it
just saying a hit dog or holler. Cause today with me and my coworker was saying, I was like, "Woo, he be walking around here hitting them notes, but we gotta tell him he can't sing like that." So she gonna say when he came up, you know what? Somebody told me to tell you can't sing. And he started laughing. And I looked over at her. I said, "Who?" He talking about. See, you said it. You
is. Yeah.
the one who said it. But I'm just, and I one side I'm at. We can have laughs like that. Family oriented things, right? And cause honey, when he come through there, I be about to just jump out of my skin. He's scared to death out of me. I ain't know whether that was him or a coyote or whatever it was. But anyway,
So
yeah, I'm just trying to
you
tell
told
you.
on yourself, right?
I know you know me. As soon as you start saying something, I'm gonna say who. So yeah, and so my little coworker Destiny. She say, now see why you even say that? Cause he know you said. I said, well, ain't nobody tell you to tell on me. But that's all in good fun. But I'm just saying, a lot of times when people have those issues, that they know they're aware, and then sometimes, they be the ones feeling guilty because they done said something about you or
Yeah,
whatever, the situation. So anyway, okay,
yeah.
I'm good.
Hey, that's
I
funny,
just had
man.
to get that out.
That's you know, you went and told on yourself by saying, "Ooh,
Told
yeah,
on
that's a
myself.
tip.
Told.
That's a sign. If you ain't never had one, that's a sign." You said,
I'm just saying that I tell on somebody and I tell on
"Well, I
myself. Sure
know
enough.
you will. I know you will." But look, projections can also be a sign of certain mental health issues. Now, research has linked projection and other defense mechanisms to depression and anxiety and borderline narcissistic behavior and antisocial personality disorder. So it can be a mental illness. And the thing with mental illness, you have to address it. If you don't address your mental illness, now, and you know, because when we came up, and everybody on our team, we're old enough to have been through several decades of life. There was a time where if you mentioned mental health, you were considered crazy. Nobody wanted to be around you. They thought that you were deranged and you finna blow up a building. So therefore, in most of our community, in most minority communities, they never address mental illness because it was taboo. And people would say, ain't nothing wrong with you because there was no physical comparison that they could attribute your actions or the way you were feeling to. So when we project, know that that can also be a sign of mental health issues. And since we're talking about projection, the only way to manifest and see the life that you want is to break through what is familiar. So that works with all of this works together with projection. The way that to manifest and see the life that you want is to break through what is familiar to you. Let that sink in for a minute. You're not going to change your life. And listen to me, folks. You're not going to change your life by wanting to stay where you are because you're comfortable and then wanting a change. If you want a change, then you have to be that change. You have to do something different. It is ludicrous. It is insane to think that things are going to change if you remain the same. It's impossible. The version of you who is accustomed to poverty and the challenges that you are now used to will continue to pull you back because it's familiar and comfortable. That's the old version. That's not the new version of you that's trying to elevate and change your life. Look at it this way. Think about it. If you are comfortable, that person, that energy is comfortable in that set of circumstances. So whenever you try to pull yourself out of it, because it's comfortable to your old self, it's going to pull you back. And you're going to cave because you don't have the wherewithal and you don't have the courage to break free from it. You have to break free from it, or you will continue to live in the same set of circumstances that you're in. That is common sense. Until your will to change becomes more important than your will to be comfortable, things will never change. Until your will to change, that means you really want to change, elevate, do better. Till that will becomes more important than that will you currently have to be comfortable, nothing will change. Remember that. Let that sink in. All of this, we're talking about projection and personality traits and personality disorders. We have to understand and get back to the grassroots and the foundation of all those problems. And the foundation of all those problems, I guarantee you, is going to point back to one thing: being comfortable. When we become comfortable, I think I put a post up this week. Being comfortable is the only thing that will keep you from changing. You have to learn to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. You only become uncomfortable when you are dwelling in unfamiliar territory. You have to try different things. You have to go different places. You have to meet different people. You have to travel the world. You have to change the way that you view your space and time. You see things from a perspective of something that you're accustomed to seeing. Anything new and foreign to you is frightening when it should be exciting. It should be something that you want to explore. Because if you don't have that attitude, then you lead a boring life. You do the same thing day in and day out, and then you die. And to me, that's boring. The exploration of our mind and the world have to kind of coincide. They have to coexist. The will to do things differently, the will to explore. That creates exciting times in your life and exciting. All right? Okay. All right. Do any of my co-hosts, do y'all have anything you want to say before I conclude?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Nah, you good. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it. And, because we had yeah, it was kind of compact, but the information is the same, and the information you can certainly use if you apply it. And this is the stuff that we're making up. If we do research, we actually have some life experiences, and we share this with people in hopes that if they're not in the place they want to be, some of the information that we share they can use to get to that place that they're in search of. But anyway, in conclusion, if you have someone using projection, the first thing to remember is that it has nothing to do with you. That's just like someone comes up to me and calls me, "You white." That's projection. But what does that have to do with me when I know that I'm black? The same thing if someone says, "I'm dumb." That's projection. Why do I let that enter my space when I know I'm smart? If someone says, "I can't play basketball," you can't play. I may not be able to play as good as Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan, but I can play. So why do I let that enter my space? So the first thing we've got to remember is that it has nothing to do with us. It has to do with their shortcomings. Maybe they're not measuring up to where they want to be on the basketball court, or in the classroom, or in the beauty department. Whatever the case may be, they're projecting that onto me because they have those insecurities. These individuals are deflecting. We call it deflecting. And they're using it as a coping mechanism. Remember, how do we deal with it? We remain calm. That's the key point that I want to make. people deflecting on you, don't get angry. We know that's a natural response because all of us are not in control of our emotions. So if they're projecting, remain calm and acknowledge their feeling. You can acknowledge it and say, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but that I don't believe that to be true. That doesn't describe me. Now, you can only do that for so long, right? So now you've got to set your boundaries so that I got a way of doing it so that people know not to come talk to me about no nonsense because I know how to present myself to them to say, look, I'm not the one. I'm not really interested in all of that. And I've got better things to do. So you have to find whatever your niche is, but you can't afford to waste too much energy entertaining things that don't pertain to you. That makes no sense to me. If it's not helping me, then I don't want any part of it. And if I'm not helping anyone else, I don't want any part of it either. It has to be one of those two things that gets me to a better place in my life and makes me feel better about myself. And always, always, always remember when people use projection, their behavior is a reflection of their own issues and not yours. That's the takeaway. If someone calls me fat, I don't care how skinny they are. They got an issue with their appearance. If someone calls me dumb, they've got an issue with their own intelligence. Because there are ways, even when we all make mistakes. So if we make a mistake and we're wrong about something, that doesn't make me dumb. That means that I made a mistake. And you're going to make one too if you haven't made one already. So don't buy into it. But anyway, like I said, we enjoyed it. This was another great one. I'm telling you, we're having some great discussions and people are singing our praises. So We Talk is really picking up. We enjoy giving you all the information, and we're going to see y'all next Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. So, Ademar, Ademay, off Wiedersehen.
Peace, guys.
I'll take care.